Assalamualaikum and good morning to all. Thank you so much for joining us today. In this 1 hour and 15 minute session, the speaker is going to talk about the latest features and functionality on Journal Citation Reports database. For the record, JCR has been subscribed by UMT since 2019 until 2022. And this year, UMT has just resubscribed to JCR after a year of termination in 2023. So we are glad to have Mrs. Cheng Julin with us today. To give you a brief introduction to our speaker, Mrs. Cheng Julin is a senior customer success consultant specializing in Clarivate's research and analytics solutions. Okay, she engaged with researchers and university leaders around Southeast Asia in discussions around optimizing researcher workflows, bibliometrics, and strategic decision making. She has extensive experience in STM publishing covering various research fields. During her career, she represented leading academic publishers in engagements across Asia Pacific. Mrs. Juling's passion for marketing, client engagements, and academia, combined with her experience in different publishing houses, enables her to provide a unique blend of insights and stakeholder perspectives regarding academic research output and research evaluation. So without further ado, over to you, Mrs. Cheng Julin. I cannot hear your voice, Julin.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Sharifa.
Okay.
All right. Very good
Welcome.
morning, everyone. Thank you for taking time to join us for today's webinar session on Journal Citation Reports. I'm really happy to hear that UMT has come back to resubscribe to Journal Citation Reports again this year. And it's a very exciting year to come back to Journal Citation Reports because since 2023, there was a lot of changes to how we classify journals. Like, for example, the journal impact factor has been given to more journals compared to previous years. This year, the up and coming report will be in June, and that will also encompass further changes to things like the quartiles. So really exciting times, and I hope to be able to share all these new features and functionalities with all of you today. So the theme for today's webinar, I've actually put in this title, Publishing Strategically with Journal Citation Reports. And the reason why I put this theme is because Journal Citation Reports, even though it's a way for you to identify journals in Web of Science, but it also gives you additional perspectives on the kinds of topics or research topics that are attractive to some of these journals that you might be aiming for. So why is this important? The reason is because it's not just about identifying, say, for example, high impact quartile 1 journals to publish in. It's also important to understand what type of research would appeal to these high impact journals. Because high impact journals tend to want to find manuscripts that have breakthrough science or breakthrough research rather than research that has been done many times. Okay, so that's just one perspective. The other strategy that maybe you might want to consider is your types of manuscript. So you might be writing an original research article, or you might be writing a review paper. But not all journals publish reviews. Not all journals publish original articles. So these are just some of the things that you probably have to consider apart from just identifying journals alone. Okay. So to conserve internet bandwidth, I'm actually going to stop my video and then I'll proceed with the presentation. Okay. To give you an idea of the publishing landscape at the moment, I thought I'll give you a quick snapshot of the numbers. Okay, so the first number I wanted to share with you was the number of scholarly journals that are published globally. Currently, we have over 30,000 plus scholarly journals published globally, and it's ever increasing. And why is it increasing? It's because of the advocacy of open science. So when people are advocating for open science, they want to be able to publish more and more open research, open access journals come into play. And that's why you have even more journals to consider. But because of this increase in journals, we are talking about probably a couple of hundred of journals in each subject category introduced each year. So it becomes even more difficult for you as researchers to decide on where to publish or which journals are trustworthy. Same thing goes for the library. It makes it even more difficult for the library to decide on which journals to subscribe to, which ones are important. The next set of numbers I wanted to share was around questionable publishing practices, or what some of you would like to say, predatory publishing. Okay. So this was taken from The Economist in May 2020. And this shows that across all major subject areas like health, maths, physical and chemical sciences, economics, and biology, there is a steep and sharp increase in the number of predatory predatory journals. And the highest numbers actually come across from health, maths, and the physical sciences, the hard sciences. So for those on the call today, I'm sure you are all part of this STEM group of researchers. So it becomes even more challenging for you to identify trusted journals that you can publish in. Why is predatory publishing or predatory journals so, I would say, dangerous? The reason is because there is currently no copyright law in place to protect your research when it unknowingly gets published in one of these journals that have questionable publishing practices. Because until today, there is no clear definition of what a predatory journal means. So when there's no clear definition, there's definitely no clear law that can be placed. So what does this mean? It means that if you accidentally publish your paper into these journals without checking whether they are trusted, whether they are real, at the end of the day, your research cannot be resubmitted into another journal. So basically, you lose your research to be published in a source that may not be recognized by your university or your ministries. So that's how critical it is. Now, for the experienced researchers, many of you might already know about all these issues, but very important for all your students, so your early career researchers who might be new to publishing and not even sure how to identify some of these potentially predatory journals. So hopefully after today's session, it gives you a better idea what is important to consider and how you can use the journal citation reports to evaluate these journals. Now, if you don't want to use journal citation reports, even before you subscribe to journal citation reports, many researchers might already be doing some kind of screening to make sure that they are publishing in non-predatory journals. And some of these checklists could be some of these questions that are going to be on the screen. Okay, so things like, do you or your colleagues know the journal? Can you easily identify and contact that publisher? Is the journal clear about the types of peer review that it uses? Okay, so one of the main things about predatory journals is that they always promise you that, oh, the peer review process will be very fast. But whether or not they go through peer review is a separate question. So at least they need to be clear what is the type of peer review they use. So is it single blind, double blind? What is the usual process of peer review? How long does it usually take for the peer review process? Okay, all these should be laid out very clearly on the journal's website. Then articles indexed in services that you use. So I'm not talking about Google Scholar or Google because they usually don't really have a curation process to index any of this content. But for Web of Science, we do have a curation process. So only if the source is a trusted source will we include the articles into Web of Science. So as long as these articles are indexed in these trusted services like the Web of Science, you can be rest assured that the journals should be trustworthy. Okay. Then is it clear what fees will be charged? Now, with open science and open access research, journals have to find other source of revenue. So most of this revenue, instead of subscription fees to the journals, becomes article processing charges that they charge to authors. Some of these fees can range from US dollars 50 to very high numbers of 5,000 USD per article. This can be very, very lucrative for the journals, and many journals will tend to prey on unknowing researchers because of this. Because researchers are time crunched, so they want to be published as quickly as possible. And if they say, oh, you just pay me USD $50, I will make sure that your article is published within 1 month. Okay, that's or even 1 week. Maybe 1 month would be still quite okay, but maybe 1 week, right? High chance it's not going to be peer reviewed. So they are just taking your money and then publishing your work without doing proper peer review. Okay, so fees have to be declared. So journals on their journal websites will have to declare what type of fees they will collect. Some will collect just the article processing charges. Some will also just collect say color processing charges if you are publishing pictures, especially in medical science, or I think sometimes in marine biology or marine ocean related research, you might have pictures of sea related matter and so on that has to be in color. So sometimes the journals will also collect these kind of charges. So they have to be very clear on what they're collecting, when they will be collecting. Then do you recognize the editorial board members? Journals like to put in very big names into their journal's editorial team. They can be in the editorial board, they can be advisors, sometimes they can be Nobel laureates. Okay, so these are all because they want to be able to attract good articles. So they want to put as big a name as possible into their list of editorial team. But you always have to check and make sure that these big names are indeed the editorial board members of those journals that they say they are. So basically just confirming whether it's true or not. Okay, because sometimes they will just put, some fake journals will just put the fake names in there and just say, oh, this is a expert in whichever field. Okay, but you need to just double check the person, make sure this is a real person that exists in that affiliation and so on. Then is the publisher a member of recognized industry initiatives? Do they belong to, let's say, the Committee on Publication Ethics, COPE? Right. So many of the publishers will tend to be part of this committee or at least follow the guidelines of this committee. And they will make sure that they state that in their website. If it's an open access journal, just make sure that they are listed in the directory of open access journals. Make sure that the ISSN on the DOAJ and the titles match what they say on the website. Okay. So this, if you have never used JCR before, Journal Citation Reports before, you would probably have to go through these checklists before you submit your manuscript to a journal. Okay, and this takes up a really long time. And if you are not familiar with all these different journals, it can be a bit of a challenge to try and verify all these truths. So that's why it's always important to look for a solution or a platform that has already done this curation for you. That means they've already done all these checks for you. And the Web of Science is one such database. Okay, why do I start with the Web of Science? The reason is because the Journal Citation Reports platform actually covers journals that are indexed in the Web of Science core collection. The Web of Science core collection is designed to be selective in its coverage, so only journals that meet our quality criteria can be indexed in the Web of Science core collection. The Web of Science core collection is made up of journals, conference proceedings, and books, but for today's discussion, the focus is on the 4 journal indexes, which is the Science Citation Index Expanded, the Social Science Citation Index, Emerging Sources Citation Index, as the 4 main journal indexes. The difference between each, I will explain in a while, but Emerging Sources Citation Index, ESCI, will cover journals that are more on the emerging new journals that are across all disciplines. And these journals already meet our 24 quality criteria. If the journals meet an additional 4 more impact criteria, they will then be indexed in our specialized collections, which is the Science, Social Science, and Arts and Humanities Citation Index. All right. So the curation process that I've been talking about, or the quality criteria and the impact criteria that I'm talking about, is here on the screen. And if you remember the checklist from 2 slides ago, you would notice that some of these are here also in the criteria. So things like presence of peer review policy, ethics statements, editorial affiliations, editorial board compositions, evidence of peer review. All these are part of that curation process that we have. So we would already have done all these checks for you, and you can then be rest assured that the journals that are in Web of Science and JCR are non-predatory journals. Okay. All right. So how do you know which journal? So some of you would say, oh, the main thing I want to use journal citation reports for is to check whether a journal is indexed in the Web of Science. All right. You can, but just take note, the journal citation reports is a snapshot in time of those journals that were indexed in Web of Science prior to the launch of that report. Okay, so JCR is released every year in June, and it's usually taking the journals that have been indexed in the prior year and before. Okay, and the reason is because we calculate the journal impact factors using a snapshot of that citation performance of those journals. So any journal that might be newly indexed in Web of Science between, let's say, January to June, might not be in the JCR report. So if you want to know which journals is the most latest that is indexed in the Web of Science, the first place you should probably be going to is the master journal list. So the master journal list is a free website that you can go to. Okay, I'm going to put in the URL. It's mjl.clarivate.com. I put it into the chat so that you can just copy into your browser. So this master journal list is updated on a monthly basis. So every time there's a change in journal title, or journals get removed from Web of Science, or journals get newly included into Web of Science, they will always be updated on the master journal list. Okay, but on the master journal list, you can only see the journal title and some information from DOAJ, but you will not be able to see things like the journal impact factor or the quartiles. Okay. Now, we include title changes into master journal list. I think if from previous feedback, many researchers have said, oh, I'm always never sure why this journal was removed, what is the new title of this journal, and so on. Okay, within the master journal list, there is a download for the changes. So you can download the monthly change document, and it will show something like this. It will show you the accepted titles, the newly accepted titles, and which collection it will fall under. So like here, you have ESCI. These are the newer journals and the new journals that have been indexed. Then you have those that have been removed or editorial delisting or ceased titles. Okay, the definition of how what each of these mean will also be provided. Within the master journal list, there is also an on hold label. So there, if you browse through a journal and there is a on hold flag like this, it means that this journal is currently being re-evaluated. So that means if they are on hold, it means that no new content will be included into the Web of Science, and it serves as a warning for you to let you know that we have concerns about that journal. Okay, so whether you publish in that journal or not will be your decision, but there is potentially some risk. But if the journal passes the re-evaluation, that means they continue to meet our criteria, they will then be removed from the on-hold flag and they continue to be indexed in the Web of Science. If they don't meet our criteria anymore, they will be removed. Okay. So that's the master journal list. It's the first place that you can go to check whether a journal is indexed in the Web of Science. Right. So I'm going to just quickly show you the master journal list first. Okay, so to access the master journal list, there is this URL. I've already pasted it into the chat. Okay. By the way, if anyone has any questions, feel free to type the questions in the chat. I will be monitoring it as I go through and I will address them. Okay. So this is the master journal list. If you just want to check whether a journal is included in the Web of Science, then just type in the journal and then do a search. If there was the journal title, an exact match was found, you would see the journal title and then whether it is in the Web of Science core collection and in which index. So this is in SCIE, right? So this is how you use the master journal list. If you want to see what more information about this journal, there is a simple profile page, so you can view the profile page, but it requires you to register for an account. So just register for one, okay, and log in. And you would see details like the journal's website, publisher's website, the coverage. So where is it in SCIE and which subject category, and the reason why we are showing this. So if you are an active subscriber for JCR, the journal's impact factor and the quartiles will show. So it will show that it's subscription active. Okay. But if you don't have a subscription to JCR, it will not show. All right. Then if you scroll down, we do have additional information. So things like the preprint policy, peer review policies are here. Okay, and sometimes if the journal is an open access journal, we would have the article processing charge. So APCs will also be shown on the journal profile page. Okay, so this is master journal list. If you want to download the latest change documents, it's here on the downloads tab. Okay, and you have the monthly change archive. So you can see what has changed over 2023 and also the latest one in February. Okay. So that's the master journal list. Now going into the journal citation reports. So when would you use journal citation reports? You would use this when you want to decide on whether that journal is a suitable home for your manuscript. So based on what kind of content it is publishing, which document type is published more in that journal, which country's research is this journal publishing more in, the journal impact factor, the quartile, the citation impact, all these different journal metrics will be on journal citation reports. So it helps you to evaluate the journal. So the journal citation reports is published every year in June. So it's, as I mentioned, it's a snapshot in time. So it's usually given two data refresh. One is in June when it's launched, and then another time in October, November time get with a data refresh. Okay, so you can make use of that information throughout the year from June all the way to the next year's June, right? So within this report, it would include, of course, the curation process is based on Web of Science, core collection, but we also have quality controls for excessive self-citation. So one level above the Web of Science core collection, we have this monitoring. So if the journal has over potentially 20 to 25% self-citation, journal self-citation, then it becomes a red flag. Okay, and they could be suppressed from the JCR. So that means they might not be removed from the Web of Science, but they will have their journal impact factors frozen. Okay. Then we also have various metrics and indicators, and each of them will have their formulas that will be shown on the JCR also to let you know how these were calculated and what they mean. Now, some of these indicators can be very useful to be used together with the journal impact factor, right? So the journal impact factor, to a certain extent, is useful, but it's more for comparing journal performance. It's not so much for comparing the impact of the research that comes out from the journal. So the journal impact factor is a journal metric rather than an article metric. So if you want to see potentially how much citations you could get by publishing in that journal, the journal impact factor alone might not be enough to help you evaluate that. So you need to look for other indicators that will help you to make that decision. So we introduced the Journal Citation Indicator, JCI, probably 2 years ago. The Journal Citation Indicator basically shows you the performance of the articles in those journals in 3 years. So we will monitor the what we call the CNCI, Category Normalized Citation Impact of the articles, and average it out across 3 years, and that will be the JCI. So a JCI of 1.0 is always the average. So if a journal has a JCI of 1.5, it means that this journal's articles are performing 1.5 times better than the others in the same field. If it's below 1, then it's below average. So the JCI is quite an easy indicator to read. Any number above 1 is good. Okay. For journal impact factor, on the other hand, it purely takes into consideration citations from 1 year only. So, and it's a ratio. So meaning that you cannot compare journals between disciplines. So let's say you were looking at let's say marine science journal and a business journal. Okay, the marine science journal might have a journal impact factor of 50. The one in business might have a journal impact factor of 10. But that doesn't mean that the business journal is bad. Okay, because the average journal impact factor in the business category might be very different from the average of the marine science. So journal impact factor does not take into consideration the specialization. So it's very important that you use both the journal impact factor plus the JCI to make some comparisons of these journals. All right. Now, what did we introduce that across 2023 and what's upcoming in 2024? So we previously, before 2023, only the SCIE and the SSCI journals had a journal impact factor and quartile. The AHCI and the ESCI journals got their journal impact factors last year in 2023, but no quartiles. This year in 2024, the quartiles will be introduced to all journals. So AHCI, ESCI journals included. Okay. So we will not be doing any more quartiles based on the indexes, but rather only quartiles by subject ranking. Okay. So just take note of the upcoming changes. When that is coming up, we will also definitely run another information session to inform you of those changes in the latest reports. For this current one, so this is now March, okay? So we are still on the Journal Citation Reports 2023, okay? The report year is the 2023 year, but the data that we use is the 2022 data, okay? So it's always half a year lag behind. So the latest journal impact factor is always the 2022 journal impact factor. The 2023 journal impact factor will only be introduced this year in June in the 2024 report. Based on numbers, we have about 21,522 journals currently in JCR, and it covers at least 5,600 Go Open Access journals. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to just go into the platform to show you how to navigate the platform. And if you have any questions about what I've just explained about the journal citation reports, please type those questions in the chat and I can address them. Okay. So I'm going to just show you how to access JCR. So you go to your library website and access, sign in to your library portal and then look for journal citation reports. You should be able to access this page. Okay, no, registration is not required to use JCR, so you can start browsing the platform as it is. But if you want to add things like your favorites list or save your list of journals, then you need to create an account for yourself. All right, and the registration is usually on the top right-hand side of the website. On the JCR page, if you want to start browsing and check for a journal title, you can just go into this search box and type in okay. So we have this journal, and if it's there, then it will appear here under the journal name results. Okay, and you can click through to that journal to see the journal profile page. Now, if you want to just browse for your own subject area, you can go to categories. So there's a browse by categories. And we have all these different groups here. Okay. So we have agricultural sciences, you have chemistry, biology, engineering, environment. Okay. So you have marine and freshwater biology. So let's say you want to look at what's available for marine and freshwater biology, then you can click here. And you would have 109 journals in SCIE and 8 journals in ESCI. If you just want to see these 109 journals, just click on 109 and it will show you the journals in SCIE. If you want it to include the ESCI journals, just remove this filter for SCIE. Okay, then it would include all journals, 117 of them. And by default, it will look like this. So let me just show you. By default, it will show you total citations for the journals, journal impact factor, quartiles, JCI, and open access. Okay, so you can sort this by clicking on the header of each table. So if I sort this by journal impact factor, then immediately I will see all the Q1s at the top, followed by Q2, Q3, Q4, right? So if I'm keen to explore one of these journals, I can just click through to one of them. So let's look at harmful algae. If you click through, you would see this journal's title, the publisher's name, address, frequency, publication frequency per year. Then you have the journal's performance, where you would see the journal impact factor. If you're keen to know how it's calculated, there is a view calculation, and there's a formula here. Okay. And then on the right-hand side, you would see the citable items. So citable items are the documents that have been included in the calculation of the journal impact factor. This can serve as a reading list for you as well if you're considering this journal. This gives you an idea of what kind of research is being published in this journal. It allows you to link through into Web of Science if you have that subscription. Okay. And you can view the content in Web of Science to get the abstract. Okay. Then you have the JCI, which I mentioned just now in my slides. So this journal has a JCI of 1.97. It means that it's performing at least almost 2 times better than the other journals in this same category. Okay, so it's doing very well, and it's potentially a good option if you want to get more citations. We also have the citation distribution. So in the event that the journal publishes both articles and reviews, then you can see which type of content gets more citations. And you can also look at open access. So how much of the content is open access gold? So potentially it helps to inform your collection development, which whether this journal has a lot of free content or not many. Okay. Then if you scroll down, you have the rank. So quartile of the journal based on journal impact factor is here, Q1. So this is a Q1 journal. Then you have the JCI quartile as well. So don't be confused between these two quartiles. I think for now, the institution or even Myra is based on JIF quartile. Okay, so just look at this JIF quartile. Then we have the citation network. Now this would tell you what kind of content is being cited. But more importantly, if you scroll further down, this is the wheel that I wanted to explain more of. In the event that you got rejected by a journal, so let's say you submitted your manuscript to harmful algae and they say, oh, sorry, we have to reject your article because it doesn't meet our aims and scopes, okay? Then that's probably desk rejection. So you might want to find an alternative place to publish in. Based on this journal citation relationship, you can see which journals have been cited. So their citation relationship. So cited data and citing data. So these have more citation relationships with each other. So they have probably fairly similar content type. Okay, so you can explore these other journals to publish in. And if you scroll down, source data is also important. Now, for source data, these are based on the citable items for the journal. So citable items that we consider are articles and reviews only. Okay, so only articles and reviews are considered in journal impact factor calculation. And because of this, you can easily see the percentage of contribution. So say, for example, here, this journal in this year 2022 published 126 items, out of which 124 are articles and only 2 are reviews. So in terms of percentage, it publishes 99% original articles. So if you were publishing a review article, would this be a good home for your review? Probably not, because you would be going against a lot of competition. Chances of being published would be very, very, very slim. Okay, so always look at this to make sure that your manuscript type matches the content type that the journal is publishing. Okay. Then we also have the contributions by country that could give you a perspective of which regions research is being published more. So if you see most of them are US, UK centric, but you are from Southeast Asia, then maybe this journal might not be so suitable. Okay, so all these things can help you make a better decision and reduce your rejection rate. Okay. Then we have this other indicator that I will explain also in a bit more detail, which is the immediacy index. This is calculated based on 1 year citation and 1 year's content. So it's like citations per article for that journal. So this would give you a 1.1, meaning that on average, each article will get 1 citation in the first year of publication. So there will be a better chance of getting citations, but you can also monitor the trend. So there was a sharp drop in 2022. So you might be wondering, hey, maybe I might not have that good a chance to get my first citation in the first year of publication in this journal anymore. Okay. So this is the journal profile page. It gives you a lot of information. I don't have time to go through every single indicator, but I've already mentioned some of the important points. Okay, if you want to understand more about each indicator, there's always a learn more next to it, and it will bring you to the help section where it will give you more explanations. Okay. All right, so that's the journal. Coming back to the result set of that marine and freshwater biology list of journals, from here you can also export the list. So you can export in CSV or Excel. Just take note there's an export limit of 600 at one time. Okay. If you want to include the other indicators into this same table, you can also customize the view. So you can click on customize and you can include things like the immediacy index, percentage of articles in citable items, and apply. And then you can see everything in one glance. All right. So now let me just sort this by journal impact factor and explain to you how you can use both the journal impact factor and the JCI together. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Okay, so let me just take this one for example. Okay, so this journal, Coral Reefs, okay, has a journal impact factor of 3.5 and a JCI of 1.31. For this one, microbial ecology, it has a higher journal impact factor compared to coral reefs, yeah, at 3.6. But the journal JCI is slightly lower. Okay, so you might want to see that, hey, maybe I want to look at coral reefs rather than microbial ecology. Okay, or maybe frontiers in marine science versus coral reefs. Frontiers in marine science is 0.92. This is 1.31, even though this has a higher journal impact factor compared to this journal. Okay, so you will be able to use this to compare to decide which of these Q1 journals will have a potentially higher citation impact. Okay. Then you can look at the percentage of citable items, articles and citable items here to see which of these have more reviews. So for example, here, this one, 39% are articles. So that means about 60% are reviews. This one, 0% articles, meaning it's pure reviews only. This one has a 99.44%, so it means that it only publishes original articles. Okay, so all these are useful things to look at. If you want to compare journals side by side, you can just select them and then click on compare. Okay, you can compare up to 4 journals side by side. If you want to add to your favorites, just click add to favorites.
这两边的话都是可以的，然后这两边的键有点磨的。
Okay, sorry. I think I hear some noise in the background. Do remember to mute your lines. The session is being recorded, so if you don't want your background noise to be recorded as well, please remember to mute your microphones. Okay. All right, so that's the list of journals exporting, looking at the indicators. Let me see, is there any questions from the audience in the chat? Let me see, I don't see any questions. Okay. No questions, then I'll just proceed on. You can also explore, so there sometimes are questions about top 10% journals. So I think Myra or reporting requires you to look at the top 10% journals based on journal impact factor. From here, you can also filter by that. So you can use the filters here on the left, and you go down to JIF percentile, journal impact factor percentile, and then you choose 90. Oops. T to 100 as your top 10% and apply. Then you have your 11 journals that are in the top 10% based on journal impact factor. Okay, so that's how you can use these filters. You can filter according to any of these options here. We have the journal indexes. You can also filter based on open access, whether they are DOAJ gold. So sometimes you might want to say, hey, can I see journals that might potentially ask me for article processing charges? So most of these are those DOAJ gold access journals. Then you can filter by DOAJ gold access and apply. And there's one. So Frontiers is one. Okay. So that's how you can look at this. The other thing that you can explore is the publishers. So there's a publishers list here. If you want to see specific publishers and the journals from those publishers, you can see them here. You can also look at countries. And I'm sure there is a Malaysia here. So we do have journals index from Malaysia. There's 81 of them. Click on 81 to get that list. And these are the 81 Malaysia journals with their corresponding journal impact factors and other metrics. Okay. All right. Then if you want to know which journals we have expressed concerns about, one of the places to refer to is under our resource center, under help. There is a help guide. Here you can see the journals that have, we have editorial expressions of concern. We have title suppressions here as well, which journals have been suppressed, okay, and the reason for the suppression. Okay. The other feature that I wanted to also explain is on the homepage. So let me just come here. On the homepage of JCR, there is something called the manuscript matcher. So let's say you have already written a manuscript, you already have your article, you just want to use your article to match the journal. You can do that by clicking here, match my manuscript. It will take you to master journal list, MJL. And you can put in the title of your article, okay, and the abstract. Then you can click on find art journals. And it will give you suggestions. So because I put in rubbish, it might give me rubbish as well. But it will usually have a match score. So the higher the match score, the better. Then it's based on the abstract keywords and the title keywords as well. Okay. So based on that, it will tell you that these are the top 20 journals in Web of Science that you might want to submit your manuscript to. And again, you can view the profile page. it will tell you the link to the journal's website so that it makes sure that you go to the real authentic journal rather than searching by yourself. Okay. And you can also see other details like the open access fee. So this has a APC and the amount, and also the other preprint policies and the peer review policies of these journals. Okay. So using Master Journalist and JCR hand in hand is actually a very powerful tool for you to use to evaluate the journals to avoid being rejected by journals. Okay, it helps position yourself better for success in publishing your article in the respective journals. Okay, so hopefully this would help you better this year to help you to position and strategize your selection of your journals. And we would see more success for publishing by UMT researchers. Okay, so I think that's all I had to share in terms of the Journal Citation Reports. Just take note that there is a that in June we will announce a date closer to June on when the latest reports will be up on the platform. And just take note that we are going to have quite a big change in terms of the quartile rankings, because instead of ranking within the indexes now, we are also going to we are only going to rank the quartiles based on subject category, no matter whether they are in SCIE or ESCI. All right, this is our way to move towards a more transparency in making sure that it helps you to know any journal in Web of Science is a trusted journal. Okay, and then you would see the other nuances like the performance of the journals based on other indicators like the JCI, the journal impact factor, and so on. Okay. All right, so I think that's all I have. Are there any questions that we can take live? Because we do have a couple of, we have some time. So if anybody wants to probably unmute yourself and ask the questions, you can feel free to do so, or just type the questions into the chat.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Julie. So to all participants, if you have any questions, just unmute your WebEx to ask Ms. Julie. We still have about 15 minutes
Mm,
in
yeah,
the session. Yeah.
yeah. We're a very quiet group today.
Yeah.
So,
There's
I
also
hope.
many lecturers here joining us. Yeah.
Yeah, if any lecturers have any questions, feel free to raise them. But what I'm sharing today, I think would already help you to guide your students also to where to publish. There's also a help section here, the resource center at the bottom right of the platform, with things like product updates. We also have a help section which gives you training resources as well. So if you click through to these training resources, it brings you to the training page that gives you a full reference guide. It also gives you the small little videos that you can view and share with your colleagues, like things like comparing the journal impact factor versus the journal citation indicator. Yeah, so we do have a lot of support materials available. Okay. Dr. Tamer, you said, yes, I will share the PPT with the team, and I think the library team will then share with all of you, the participants.
Yeah. We will send a copy of the recording and also the PPT slides after the session. Yeah. Maybe next week. Yeah.
Can. Okay.
So if there is no question, so Thank you so
Okay.
much to Mrs. Julin for an informative presentation. It's
No
been an
problem.
absolute pleasure having you on board with us today. So I believe the attendees will have taken new insights from this session. I would also like to thank all the attendees for your participation in the webinar. We really appreciate your endless support of PSNSEP. So we have about 40 participants today. It's quite a huge number. So before I wrap up this session, a reminder to all the attendees, please fill out the attendance form by clicking the URL in the chat box. I have pasted the chat box. Okay, I paste once again the URL. So please click on the URL to fill out the attendance form. Okay, so
I'm also going to type in my email address into the chat. So if
okay.
you have any questions following the session today, after you tried JCR, feel free to raise those questions with me via email or through the library. Either one is fine, but I'll give you my email address as well.
Okay. So, thank you, and to all Muslims, happy Ramadan Kareem. We start our
Yes.
fast tomorrow. So, thank you so much, and we'll see you again. Thank you, Julie.
Okay. Happy Ramadan. Bye.
Okay, happy Ramadan. Yeah.